The Fatal Frame 5 remaster is almost upon us, so this week we're going to be taking a look at one of my favourite new characters from the game, how she came about, and how she ties into the series as a whole. This is the story of Kurosawa Hisoka, and what makes her so integral to the Fatal Frame 5 experience. To start, as I just mentioned, Fatal Frame 5 sees the first appearance of Hisoka, and she was a brand new character created especially for it. She's voiced by my absolute favourite voice actress, the legendary Tanaka Atsuko, and despite not really being around for most of the game, she's integral to the game's plot. The game as we know it wouldn't exist without her. But who exactly is she? Well, let's take a look. If Hisoka's last name sounds familiar, then well done, you've played several Fatal Frame games. Shibata especially loves the surname Kurosawa, which translates to Black Swamp, because of the visual connection it has to Hellgates in his mind. To him, these locations are generally filled with dark water, and so, families who are tasked with containing and soothing these all-important spots are generally given the Kurosawa surname. Before the version of Fatal Frame 5 that we know today came about, Hisoka was originally going to be a main character, who would travel to ghost spots all over Japan to find people who had been spirited away. Throughout this long journey, she would uncover the origins of her name, Kurosawa, and how it ties into the border between our world and the next. She would then, in the end, start her search for someone named Kurosawa Yuri. As we now know, that game never eventuated, like many of the ideas that were being developed at the time, but aspects of it were taken and included in the final version of the game that we do have now. Hisoka was bumped down from a main character to a side character, and the Yuri that she was searching for in the end was bumped up to a main character instead. The final version of Yuri was no longer a Kurosawa, but interestingly, kept the same powers. And what powers are those? Well, Hisoka as we know her in the final game is said to be the descendant of a shrine maiden who escaped the Mount Hikami disaster. Although almost everyone on the mountain died when Kururugi went on his rampage and the dark waters spilt forth from, you guessed it, the Black Lake, one was able to escape. None of this information is ever revealed in-game, but you can find it in the official Fatal Frame 5 guidebook. It was said that this shrine maiden, who was blinded during the devastation, made a quiet living using her Mitodi powers. She could find things that other people couldn't see, and she kept the name that was given to her up on the mountain, Kurosawa. It's unclear exactly how much time has passed since then, but considering that Dr. Aso was a young man at the time of the disaster, it probably took place in the early 1900s. This would likely make the Shrine Maiden Hisoka's great-grandmother, give or take. And somehow, the Shrine Maiden's powers of Mitodi were then passed down the family line, all the way to Hisoka, who was taught how to use them by an unnamed old woman, as well as through various oral legends and documents. She's able to see things that other people can't, and that makes her able to find things that people have lost. Naturally, she can also use this ability to find lost people as well, and that plays a large part of Fatal Frame 5. This ties into Hisoka's antique shop in the game, which is the storefront and house she lives and works out of. The antique store is her front-facing business, but much of her actual work comes from requests for Hisoka to find something or someone, which she does using her inherited Shrine Maiden powers of Mitodi. Her store, however, is apparently very popular with the locals, particularly young girls, who regularly visit it for Hisoka's famous coffee and to have their fortunes told. And speaking of the Kurosawas, Hisoka's visual design was specifically made to resemble that of Rei from the third game. Again, while nothing is said in-game, Shibata has revealed that Rei and Hisoka are related, descended from that same Shrine Maiden, but nothing any more concrete than that has ever been given. Fatal Frame 3 takes place in the late 1980s, while Fatal Frame 5 takes place in the mid-2010s, so there's quite a bit of time between them, and that makes guessing a familial relationship a little difficult. They could be aunt and niece, or they could be distant cousins, depending on how many children the original Kurosawa Shrine Maiden had. We will likely never know, but they are related, and as such, Shibata decided to keep Hisoka's visual design close to theirs to strengthen that association. Hisoka also possesses one of 2 camera obscuras in the game. No Fatal Frame game is complete without a camera obscura or 2, and Hisoka supposedly got hers from the same old woman who trained her to use her Mitodi abilities. How this woman got a camera obscura is unknown, but it was apparently given to Hisoka by a local family after the old woman's death, and with this camera, she was able to find not only things that had gone missing in this world, but things that had gone missing on the other side as well. The camera allowed her to capture those things and bring them back, which is something you also do as Yuri many times throughout the game. The heart of Hisoka's character, the weakness she must overcome, is told through events that happened before the start of the game. A woman visited Hisoka and asked for her help in finding a missing relative. This missing woman's name was Akari, and Hisoka was able to track her down, but she was too late. The woman jumped off a cliff right before Hisoka's eyes, and the event massively traumatized her. Sometime later, Hisoka then came across Yuri in much the same position, but this time around was able to stop her before she jumped. When she touched Yuri, she was able to see all the anguish and guilt inside her, along with her fixation with death. This drew Hisoka to her as she felt much the same way, and she realized the pair were basically 2 peas in a pod. She brought Yuri into her home and trained her how to use those same Mitodi powers that developed after Yuri was the sole survivor of an accident that killed her entire family. When reading through Hisoka's journals in-game, it's revealed that Hisoka is constantly worried that she's going to eventually use Yuri too, just like she lost Akari. Hisoka understands Yuri's pain all too well, and being able to literally see and feel the emotions that are bubbling inside her, worries that the next time around, she might not be able to stop Yuri from jumping off the edge of the cliff too. This is what drives Hisoka throughout the game, and when Yuri is briefly attacked during the first mission, Hisoka makes the decision to carry out her next job alone. She doesn't want to put Yuri in any more danger, but of course, ends up going missing herself, forcing Yuri onto the mountain to now find her missing mentor as well. The relationship between Hisoka and Yuri is one of the key points of the game, and you spend much of the game looking for Hisoka after she goes missing. Turns out, she was taken by the Shrine Maidens to be a sacrifice and placed in a box in the Shrine of Water, a terribly difficult location to reach, but also an incredibly important one. Hisoka's powers made her a particularly potent sacrifice, earning her a spot close to the Shadow Spring itself, and spoilers from here on out, so maybe skip ahead if you don't want to know the final details of the ending. When Yuri does finally find her, Hisoka actually begs her to leave her be. For a moment, she also succumbs to the guilt that has been tearing her down, thinking that things would be easier if she just gave in and became a sacrifice. But Yuri naturally frees her, and then finally they return home together. This leads to a particularly poignant scene where Yuri makes a cup of hot coffee for Hisoka, which mirrors what Hisoka did for her when she first brought her back to the antique store after finding her at the cliffside. That simple act, a mere cup of hot coffee, was the impetus Yuri needed to keep on living, to keep going, inspired by the warmth of it, and the gesture wasn't lost on Hisoka either. The women understand each other like perhaps no one else does, and this greatly touches her. Depending on which section of the final battle you defeat the last boss in, you can get one of two different endings for Yuri and Hisoka. The bad ending confirms Hisoka's fears of losing Yuri all along when she gives in and joins Ulcer on the other side. But the good ending sees Yuri help Ulcer move on while she remains behind, safe and sound, ready to live with her guilt and trauma and try to move on as Hisoka calls out to her from the beach. This time, she was able to save the girl, and hopefully, with time, they can both move on from the events that traumatized them so. And that is the story and background behind Kurosawa Hisoka, one of my personal favorite characters from the entire series. What did you guys think about this one? Who is your favorite character from both this game and the entire series? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.